Hi everybody, my name is Kayla Clapper and I am currently a corrections officer at Oshkosh Correctional Institution. The lady that you are about to meet is a very important role model of mine as well as a previous instructor as to getting where I am now. She is a captain and she does teach at the CTC. And the reason why I interviewed her is because of her history in this field as well as all of her knowledge about this system. She has been a lot of places many times, and the path that she has chosen to get here is really just incredible. She is very smart. She has a lot of education behind her, which I really admired about her as well. Plus the fact that she is a female in what seems to be, in my opinion, a very male-dominated field. So getting a female's perspective on that was really refreshing in that sense. Please keep in mind that everything you're about to see is her opinion about this, and I really want to enhance what I mean by that. This video is her only. She's not talking about her opinions about the department based on anybody else. She's not speaking on behalf of anybody else. It is just her and her opinions. So if you have any questions about the video at the end, please feel free to email me or get a hold of me through Fox Valley Technical College. I know that there's going to be a lot of information jammed in here at one time, but she really is a incredible lady. Anything else, let me know, and enjoy the video.
My name is Garceau, otherwise known as Captain Garceau. Currently, I'm a training captain for the Corrections Training Center for the Wisconsin Department of Corrections, which trains all the new correctional officers. I got into this business sort of not my first choice. I was a biomedical engineering student and then a medical technology student at Marquette University. Went to UW Milwaukee in criminal justice. There I took a class on the correctional process, which also talked about the prison system a little bit. They showed a video about the New Mexico prison riot, and I said, no way would I ever want to be a correctional officer. That's way too dangerous. I think I want to be a homicide detective. As I was looking into that, I thought a little bit more about probation and parole. I'm in my 18th year of doing this type of business and still going strong.
The diversion programs that we have throughout the state of Wisconsin can really vary between the K-9 programs to the sex offender treatment programs, also including, the AODA programs can really vary throughout the institution statewide. What do you feel like are some of the best ones, and what do you feel are some of the worst ones?
All right. Well, for me, anything that's got the cognitive programming attached to it is going to be beneficial. So even if somebody has an alcohol drug abuse problem, if they aren't able to get into the ALDA treatment while they're incarcerated, because we've got giant long wait lists, if we can at least get them into some kind of cognitive programming to work on their thinking errors, that is half the battle right there, because not everyone with an AODA issue is a criminal. So
going off of what you just heard, between the diversion programs and the treatment programs, they are both different, but they can also be very similar. The K-9 program can be a diversion program as well as a treatment program, due to the fact that, it does take their mind off of the outside world, takes their mind off of getting released and going outside, and what's waiting for me outside these four walls, versus the fact that it is there to help them. These dogs do go back into the community, and they are trained and helped for people that have, PTSD, or whether they're blind, or, each dog is there for a different reason. Going off of the dog program, going into the AODA and sex offender treatment, those treatment programs there are solely there to get them back into the to the civilian life. The rehab programs as well, so whatever things that they have going on in their mind, if their mind has certain triggers for it that leads them to act out on it, these programs are there to help them go about things a different way, and it's there to let them know that there is a different way that they can do things instead of having these things as a crutch, and having them be the focus of their life. So both these treatment programs are very widely used within our institutions as well as throughout the United States. But I'm also sure that these programs there have had many success rates throughout the state of Wisconsin. Going into probation and parole, when we had sat down and talked, one thing that we did agree upon was the fact that it is needed. Probation and parole is widely used throughout the United States, and it is the step that they need in order to be able to be fully re-civilized. These people are there to help them and check up on them and really make sure that they stay on the right path by going to meetings and by obviously having wellness checks and making sure that they're not doing drugs and staying out of bars and stuff like that. Clearly, they cannot take away every bad influence that's out there, but their main goal is to make sure that they do not go back into the prison system.
Because then we can kind of keep our eyes on things. They've got a resource too. So sometimes it's the agents watching over them, making sure they're not messing up with the rules. Sometimes it's the person who's on supervision saying, "Can you help me out?" Because it's difficult for felons. It's hard enough for other people to find jobs. It's difficult for felons and housing and things like that. So sometimes they need resources, so they'll voluntarily come to their agent. They've got somebody who can kind of coordinate those services for them. So I think after prison release, it's very, very critical that people be on some type of supervision.
Absolutely.
Then there's the probation side on the front end for those individuals that never go to prison, and that's, I mean, my thoughts on that are probably the community and several people that work for our department maybe think that we treat them too well. I think we treat them about as well as we should. I don't think we necessarily overcoddle them because I understand all the different laws and the different factors we have to take into account when we allow certain property items in. I've been part of discussing who gets what type of religious property, working with our attorneys and things like that, so I understand litigation and all that with regards to inmates suing us for things. So I know there's people that feel that they get more than they should, but you also have to keep in mind 97% of these individuals are going to return to the community. If you give them nothing and they don't make any positive changes, they're going to come out worse than what we got them as. So even if you don't think they should be treated nicely, think about those people coming out and how you want them to behave.
Right.
I used to do tours at New Lisbon Correctional, and I would show that, we have a school, we have the food service. Basically, the inmates do all the work at the institution. Our staff sort of monitor to see what they're doing as far as like keeping things up, feeding people, maintenance, etc. And we try to run things so inmates feel safe, because if they don't, they're not going to open up on the programming, which means they're not going to make any changes in their lives. So generally, compared to other states, our prison systems are not as dangerous. They're not, they haven't felt as safe as they used to. That seems to not be quite as good as it used to be. But generally, because they feel they're being treated decently, they have more to lose. If the place is horrible and we treat them badly, they're not going to have anything to lose, and it's going to get worse and worse. So I think we need to make it as regular as possible, get people into routines. Some of these folks never had that routine growing up or in their chaotic 20s and 30s. So they get used to that routine and hopefully carry that out with them. I think we need to be able to have more treatment facilitators so the inmates can actually get the treatment. The waiting lists are insanely long. And I would like to see the correctional officers even get more involved in some of the treatment. So like you had evidence-based programming. We talked, I think, a little bit about this, but there are some facilities that have some of the correctional officers learning some of the cognitive behavioral things. So by having more people in the facility understand that type of programming and being able to use that on a day-to-day basis with not just, you messed up, here's your sanction, don't do it again. What were you thinking at the time? What choices should you have been making? Having those kinds of discussions aren't that difficult to do, but most people aren't comfortable with it unless they've had a little bit more training or can see how that works. Right. So if my best case scenario, if we had the time and the ability to train all our staff in that, and had a few more staff where we were able to do that with the inmates, I think that would be more effective, because then they're getting it every single day. They're not going to a class and then just talking about it once or twice a week. Perfect, but if I didn't think things could still keep getting better, I wouldn't be doing this anymore. I'd have to think that maybe someday something like that could happen.
Based off of what you just heard, and going more about the prison system, we had talked about the way that prison systems were going. And what we agreed upon is that it is going in a better direction than it has in the past. But the new thing out there is policies and procedures. There is a lot of new policies, there's a lot of new gray areas, and things are going to get lost, and miscommunication. And we are concerned about the direction that the policies are going. We also worry that they're too strict or that they're not strict enough and that there's too many loopholes for certain people to get away with things. So that part of it is going to be hard. And also implementing classes and training and helping them, get back into their lives instead of having them have all this free time where they're just sitting there and becoming better criminals. We hope that they spend less time in segregation and more time in those programs talking about how they feel, talking about where their mind is, stuff like that, versus, sitting in a cell all day as punishment. Obviously, that still is going to be needed, but hopefully not as much, and we can focus on more treating them like people, I want to say, and treat them more with an understanding and trying to understand their thought process instead of just saying, you messed up, now you're going to the hole. That obviously, again, will still be there, but we're hoping that they learn to find different things for them to be better people at. Okay, now that we have covered all the serious politics, policies and procedures, different programs, all that really heavy stuff, I want to get into a little bit more of the contraband and the side that people don't get to see. I want to touch a little bit on what she has found throughout, her years of working here and show you guys some examples of what contraband found in the prison system does look like.
Well, tattoo guns are common to my mind just because that's been something that's come up a lot lately, is the ingenious way that they come up with making a tattoo gun so they can continue to tattoo themselves while incarcerated. So and then even just some of this weird artwork things that inmates make that they're not supposed to make, like using soap for giant sculptures and things like that. They're not, it's kind of contraband because they aren't in an art program and they're using the state soap to do this. So that stuff's kind of interesting. I'm just some of these things I just kind of I compartmentalize and I try to not think about. But even probation parole, my first week on the job there, this guy, because they're trying to get past their UAs, so he had this bag strapped to his stomach that had like fake urine in it, not his urine, to try to do the UA so he'd get past the test. Well, our agent noticed it, and so I'm taking pictures of him. Meanwhile, the guy took off, so we had to call law enforcement to get him, locked up in jail because he's
doesn't it have to be like a certain temperature and everything.
That's why it was taped right to his stomach.
Wow.
Because it kept it warm. Because we use a temperature thing around the outside to make sure it's warm.
That's
so
disgusting.
That's what he was doing. The mentally ill inmates are the ones I like to work with the best, but then you see them all of a sudden, they're just like, have lost their mind. And this one dude, every time he really got bad, he just would run around naked and he'd come into my office, all of a sudden he shows up in my office naked, and like, he does not even ever remember these things, because then you talk to him later when he's back on his meds and he has no idea what he did. So that kind of stuff, I really do like watching that change and how much medication can do for the mentally ill when you get them all back on track. Weird notes that people have written. We had a guy who used to write to the president and the Secret Service and all these places like crazy letters. So we had to send out letterhead every time he sent a letter out to these places. Do you want, and if it was going to the president, you had to send it to the Secret Service and everything. Like, he was on the FBI watch list and everything like that. So that was a little bit crazy. But